You know that old saying, new year, new you? It's a cliche for a reason, right? We all feel that pull for a fresh start. So today, we're going to dig into one very specific spiritual framework that's all about channeling that energy. A really structured, step-by-step way to set your intentions for the year ahead. Let's break it down.
There's just something so powerful about turning that calendar page, isn't there? That feeling of a totally clean slate, a chance to hit reset and just begin again. And the system we're looking at today, it's built entirely around harnessing that exact feeling of renewal.
But here's the thing. With all that potential sitting there, the big question is always, how do we actually prepare for it? How do you go from just feeling hopeful to actively building the year you want? Well, the approach we're exploring today offers a very specific, structured answer to that.
Okay, so the whole process kicks off at the highest level with what the source material calls a general prayer. You can think of this as the wide-angle lens, you know? It's about capturing the entire year in one big, foundational appeal for some divine guidance.
And listen to the language being used here. Words like surrender, guide, and illuminate. They really set the tone. This isn't about making a list of demands for what you want. It's about asking for direction and kind of relinquishing control right from the get-go. So this opening prayer basically covers all the bases of our human anxieties and hopes. It's like, okay, let's acknowledge our fears and our own plans. Let's ask for wisdom. Let's express that hope for something good to happen. And let's make sure it includes the people we love. It's a really comprehensive opening statement for the year.
All right, so after setting that broad foundation, the framework starts to zoom in. It shifts from that wide-angle view to something much more specific, channeling all those big hopes into 4 really targeted areas of life.
These are the 4 pillars of intention for the year. Each one is a distinct focus, and the framework lays out a specific prayer for every single one. So let's dig into them.
First up is restoration, and this is all about recovery. The source material actually points to the scripture Joel 2:25, which talks about restoring the years that the locusts have eaten. So the idea here is to reclaim things that you feel might have been lost, whether that's something tangible, like money, or something intangible, like your peace of mind.
The second intention has kind of 2 parts. On one hand, it's about creating a sanctuary, a home filled with peace. But on the other hand, it's about seeking active spiritual protection over your future. That phrase, warring angels, is pretty intense. It suggests a proactive defense against anything that could throw you off your path.
Next, the focus shifts to our connections with other people. This prayer is all about strengthening the bonds we have with family and friends. It's an appeal for a divine presence in those conversations and big decisions, all to help build unity and love in our most important relationships.
And the final intention, it's all about forward momentum. This is where you position the new year as a time for acceleration, a period where goals that had felt stuck or just delayed for so long finally break through. This is definitely the most forward-looking and aspirational of the 4. So we've gone from a general prayer to some very specific intentions. Now the third part of this structure gets even more proactive. It's all about making what the source calls prophetic declarations. Basically using powerful, definitive statements with the belief that they can actually help shape your future.
This first declaration is like drawing a psychological line in the sand. When you say that the coming year will not look like previous years, you're making a conscious choice to break away from old negative patterns and create a real opening for change.
And the language here gets even more assertive. The word decree, that's like a formal command. The focus is on attracting these really positive forces: grace, which is like unearned kindness; manifestation, the idea of making your hopes real; and favor, getting those special advantages.
This final declaration really brings the focus inward. It's not just about changing what's happening around you, it's about claiming a new personal identity. This statement is meant to close the door on the old you and let you step confidently into a future that's seen as, purposeful and already designed for you.
Now you might be asking a really important question. Where does all this come from? This framework isn't just made up out of thin air. As the source material shows, it's actually anchored in specific scriptural texts that give these prayers and declarations their spiritual weight.
You can really see the theological backbone of the whole thing right here. Jeremiah gives us that theme of a hopeful, pre-planned future. Isaiah reinforces that idea of leaving the past behind and embracing something new. And Proverbs, that provides the core instruction.
trust in a higher power for guidance. These texts are the why behind the what of this entire process.
So let's just recap real quick. We've got a clear, logical progression. It starts wide with a general prayer. It narrows down into specific intentions. Then it moves into these proactive declarations about the future. And the whole thing is supported by a scriptural foundation. It's a complete system for spiritual preparation.
And that brings us to a final, bigger thought. We just broke down one very specific spiritual framework, but it really points to something we all do, right? We create structures, whether they're New Year's resolutions, 5-year plans, or prayers, to help us navigate the uncertainty of the future and give it some shape. So it makes you wonder, what are the frameworks that you build?